Now, my pleasure to welcome to the stage to moderate our Jockeys Panel, host on XBTV and the only woman ever to win the Marlboro Cup Timber Race. She's worked as a stunt double and in her spare time has the privilege and joy of raising two boys ages 12 and 14. Don't worry, when they're little, the problems are little. The big problems are just starting, dear. And she has little help from her husband, thoroughbred trainer Tim Yakteen. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for Millie Ball. Boy, they can see you coming from a long way away.
Thank you very much, Tom. Well, the only difference between me and the next four panelists that are going to be coming up here is Tom mentioned stunt. I had to figure out how to get paid to fall off of horses. They get paid to race horses. So let me start by introducing our panelists. I've been very fortunate enough to interview some of the best trainers, jockeys, owners, personalities in this industry. And between these four jockeys, they've broken down barriers, they've overcome challenges, they've won a Triple Crown, derbies, other major events around the country, including Breeders' Cups. And each one of them, I think just as importantly, has really continued to give back to the sport, not just the work they've done in the saddle, but beyond that. So let me start by introducing you to our first panelist. She's the daughter of one of the first women to get a jockey's license. She rode professionally for 11 years. She retired as the second female leading rider in earnings. She's now seen very regularly on the back of a horse for NBC, and she serves as COO of Starlight and Star Ladies Racing in her spare time. Donna Brothers.
Thank you, Millie. Thank you, everyone.
Our next panelist, one of 9 children. I can't imagine that, I only have 2. Introduced to racing by his older brother, who I imagine he's indebted to because this man retired with over 7,100 career wins in 28 years. He's one of my favorite jockeys to ride work with in the morning, back in the days, Chris McCarron.
Thank you.
Now, while most 16-year-olds are busy trying to get their driver's license, this guy was busy trying to get his jockey's license. He leads all jockeys in Breeders' Cup wins with 26. He has 6 chances over Friday and Saturday combined, and he is the recipient of some of the industry's most coveted awards. He has 5,500 wins and counting. My friend Mike Smith. This gentleman holds the record for the most wins in one year, 598 victories in 1 year. He defined the odds by coming back from a near-fatal accident in 1992 to win the Breeders' Cup Turf on Kodashan the following year. He's won 3 Kentucky Derbies, 3 Preaknesses, and a Belmont. Hall of Famer, Ken DeSormo. I'm going to go over and join my friends.
She's going to sing.
Okay. See this. Okay. So today we're going to talk a little bit about really what equipment jockeys need in order to perform their trade, both from a safety aspect but also for helping them be more successful at what they do. So Donna, I actually wanted to start with you because I know you began your career in 1987 prior to safety vests being mandatory. Mm-hmm. What has the transition been like? What was it like for you prior to that, and then obviously having to wear them for every single race?
Yeah, I think all the jockeys here would probably agree with me that when they first started the luckily I wasn't around when they first started the helmets. I'm not that old. But I can only imagine that they felt the same way when they first started the helmets, because you're used to being on a horse in a particular way. And you know, you feel sort of naked if you get onto a horse without a riding crop in your hand. And so I could imagine that when you first wore the helmet, it would have felt like it might obstruct your view. And we felt the same way about the safety vest at first. It felt like it was cumbersome, like it was like we couldn't move as well as we normally could. And so oftentimes we would forget to wear the safety vest because we just didn't want to wear it. And not only that, jockeys are thin, right? And we're used to seeing ourselves as thin people, and then you put the safety vest on and you're like, and now I look fat. So we didn't like that either. And especially because that was when they had the aerodynamic silks. So you had to put that safety vest on and then those aerodynamic silks that you had to peel on and off of you. So we were really resistant to it at first. And then once you got used to it, if you would literally like just accidentally forget your safety vest, you would be like, oh my God, I got to go back to the jocks room and get my safety vest. And now I can't imagine us not having the vest. I mean, it's such a great idea. But yeah, we definitely resisted it.
Do you remember a time perhaps that you came off and you felt like that safety vest was, you know, kept you from really hurting yourself?
I can't really say that it helped a great deal. I think if you were to get kicked or if you land a certain way on the track, it probably helps. But it's not going to help a whole lot if you hit the ground and all of a sudden a horse comes along and clips you and or steps on you or something like that. There's so much force that it might help a little bit, but it's not going to help a great deal.
Possibly, Mike, maybe with, you know, lacerations. I mean, as you know, you can get clipped with a hoof and you can give you a pretty serious cut.
Yeah, it would probably help with that. A lot of times, you know, we get hurt from the way we land. So I wouldn't think it would help a whole lot, you know, if you was to land awkward. But yeah, it does help with, like Chris said, if you got kicked in the paddock or if a horse would clip you or something, it might keep you from getting bruised up a little more than you're probably already gonna be. But it's certainly a piece of equipment that every little bit helps, especially with riders, because we don't wear a whole lot. You know, a lot of it depends on weight. So, you know, they tend to be 2 pounds. Man, that's heavy. You know, for us, 2 pounds is a whole lot of weight. So you try to get all we can, but as long as it's light enough.
And are those vests standard? I mean, are they sort of a licensed?
Yeah, they're standard. There's only so many different brands we can use. And they're different in every country and every state, to be honest with you. You know, here there's about 3 different brands that we can use, but you can use that brand somewhere else. So it's a bit complicated, but we've got it down now.
You weigh in with them, obviously?
It depends. Again, that's another issue. In Europe, you know, you weigh in with most everything. Here in America, it's more of a safety equipment, so that they let you not weigh in with it because they use it for safety. It just depends where you're at.
Donna mentioned something, that the helmet. I mean, it seems a crucial piece of equipment. I know it saved me with a horse treading on my head, had a big dent in the helmet. For you, the helmet and the transformation we've seen in you know, them trying to make these helmets more scientifically proven to prevent concussion, etc. What are your thoughts on the newer helmets?
Well, I can consider just, you know, going to a workmanship-like place where, you know, you have to, Chris, I just asked you this morning. When you're at a construction site, what's it called?
Hard
Yeah,
hat.
right, hard
A
hat.
hard hat. They always have that net inside, you know, where if something was to fall on you, something should take that initial contact and distribute some, you know, just at least take away some of that weight, or at least the concussion. And it seems elementary to me, but when I started riding with the old Caliente helmets, which they ruled off, we had those. You know, that little net inside. You know, we don't have that anymore. But to elaborate on Donna, I think that you know, with the vest, it's really quite confronting to me to find out that, you know, I find that it doesn't allow the body to, like, if you hit, right, if you hit the ground, your body and bones can't expand. I mean, they're stuck. So I have a problem with that. And other issues with the vest, I think that it saved my life. I had a horse turn upside down, flipped with me, threw me into the earth, and I ran to the horse while she was upside down, and she spun like a top and kicked me square in the chest. If I wouldn't have had that vest on, I'd be dead. But that vest is now not allowed in this state, and I mean, it's a whole lot of things that I think that are governed, and maybe it just it's good and it's bad, and it needs to be worn in the right place. But I felt like for you sitting in your chairs that you remember when they told you to put a seatbelt on and you said, "Hell with that," And now if you don't put your seatbelt on, you feel how you feel if you don't put your seatbelt on. That's how I feel with or without my vest, like a seatbelt in a car.
Kent, I remember you've been very conscious about helmets for quite a while. I remember you went to Tokyo and rode over there, and you came back with a Japanese helmet, and you started wearing that. I think you came back with 2 of them, and you wore. Remember the brown leather? It was.
Yes, sir.
And you started wearing that helmet for quite some time until they upgraded the helmets that we have now.
I can't wait for you to go there. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to you, those helmets are animal tested. And I'm not allowed to wear those here. And they are probably the best helmets in the world, but they're not sanctioned. So our helmets have to be tested by a laboratory and drilled into the ground and proven not to combust or whatever. But these helmets actually do. They break apart when they're hit, and the idea of them is to take the blunt force for your skull. And anyway, with that being said, it's just one of those things that I think that the industry needs to understand. If there is a country that has done the due diligence, we shouldn't be neglected from having the opportunity to wear their equipment.
With that being said, Kent, is there a proven time limit, like an expiration date, Donna, on these helmets?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because as a jockey, I had 7 concussions. I broke my nose 6 times. Apparently, I was top heavy. I didn't break a lot down there.
Lucky you!
Don't know how that happened.
Top heavy.
In any event,
Superman.
yeah. I think it's Dr. McPeterson has done some work on this. No, he's the track guy.
No, Carl Matacola.
Yeah, Dr. Carl Matacola, thank you. So what they've learned now is that these helmets, after they've had one fall, like after they've one time hit the ground and there's been impact, you really should get rid of them. You should throw them away. Never use them again. There's no way to fix them after that. I had the same helmet all the years that I rode. I had the same 2. One of them got cracked. I proxied it together with some glue.
Are you serious?
True story. But we just didn't know then what we know now, right?
Right.
And so, like, if I've met you and then I don't remember your name later, that's why. I blame it on that anyway, but it's probably not that. I mean, we all have our memory fails us here and there, but yeah, it's better. I mean, I think that they've realized now that those helmets shouldn't be worn again, but Kent and Mike are still riding, and I don't think there's anybody who comes into the jocks room and says, "Hey, you took a fall, let's make sure you replace that helmet," right?
No, not really. There's no one that really regulates it. But I mean, most of us are smart enough that if you hit the ground pretty hard with it, you probably shouldn't use it again.
Yeah. You mentioned expense. How expensive is a helmet now to race in?
Depends. Some at one point they were a little over $1,000. Some of them were a helmet. Now they've gotten down a little better, where they're about anywhere from $350 to about $675 right in there. I vary.
And Millie,
You have your name engraved on the back of it.
some of them, yeah.
In gold.
Yeah.
Keeneland has taken the lead with regard to finding a baseline for concussions. They take information. There's a lady in the jocks room there, Keeneland, who works for a company in Lexington, who does baseline testing to determine if a rider does happen to fall at Keeneland and has to go to the hospital, they've got some point of reference to go by, and they're really taken the lead on concussion protocol.
How many jockeys in the room would you say have a spare one handy just in case during the race day that they fall off?
I think most of us do now.
Yeah.
You know, back in the older days, I think I had one helmet, like Donna was talking. I carried that thing everywhere I ever went. It lasted probably the first 10 years of my career. At least I thought it did. It was just up there.
Goggles is something that's another thing that you guys, I was never any good at that. No, the first time I was used to riding on the grass in Europe, so the first dirt race I ever rode here, I was blown away by the dirt that was kicked back in my face, and I only have one pair of goggles on. Amateur. How many goggles do you generally wear? I'll ask Kent this as you're currently riding. How many goggles do you wear, and how do you cope with pulling these sets of goggles down as you're holding the reins?
Well, I love to teach young riders this, and it's something that I try to tell every young rider that comes into the jockey's room, that if you wear 5 goggles, you have 10. And with that being said is, you know, when I ride the Kentucky Derby, I see these guys with like, their eyes are out to here, you know, because they got like 25 goggles on, and I'm like, dude, you know, you don't have to do that. And what are you talking about? And I was like, well, you know, once your goggle fills up, you pull half down, right? So now you got one eye, and that's completely clean, so you can see. And then after that one gets splatted and you can't see, then you pull the goggle down, now you got a pure goggle. You know, so now you're looking at, now you got 4 left, which to me is 8. So, because when
No
that
wonder
one
you shut
fills,
me off all the time.
I pull one eye down. Huh?
No wonder you shut me off all the time. So I couldn't see out of that eye.
So there you go.
We're going to start calling Kent the one-eyed jockey.
He was very unfortunate. He's got one. He only hears out of one side because he was stepped on in a bad spill. He did. He was stepped on. He almost crushed his head. But I didn't know you. I knew you couldn't hear out of one ear, but I can't see either.
They've yet to devise goggles with, you know, windscreen wipers when it rains.
He always uses the excuse. You yell at him from one side. Well, you know that's my bad ear. I said, well, last week I yelled from the other side. And you told me that was your bad ear.
Well, I'm glad I'm here today. I just learned something. I never knew any jockey that did that. Do you do that, Mike?
You know,
Pull half.
if I'm down to my last one, I'll pull half down like Ken's talking about.
Yeah.
Just so I save one eye, I guess, for the rest of it. But normally I'd put enough on.
How do you deal with...
I choose to put 6 on. I usually wear 6
So
in the Derby.
years ago, I was riding a horse called Dr. Devious for Ron McAnally, and it was his first. Jenny Craig bought the horse for her husband Sid as a birthday present. Paid $1 million for him, and so he's first time on the dirt, first time in this country, and it was raining, and he was a speed horse. So the gates open up, and I've got 5 pairs of goggles. The gates open up, and he walks out of the gate, like a lot of European horses do the first time they run here. And so I'm last. And I'm going along, and there's 18 horses in front of me, and I go by the wire the first time, and I'm still last, and now he's running off with me because he's a speed horse. And now I get 1 pair of goggles, and it's covered, right? So, and I had these thin English reins, the English and Irish reins. They're a lot thinner than our reins are, and my hands are slipping. So he's pulling me, and my hands are going like this. So to get the first goggle down, to do it efficiently, I put my head down closer to my hands, and I went like that, and I pulled 3 down.
Oh.
Oh no.
So now I turn down the backside. I've only got 2 pairs left, and I got to pull one down because I can't see. So I pull one down, and I'm at the 5/8 pole. I got 1 left.
That's a long way.
And that's a long way. And finally, at the 3/8 pole, I had to pull it down because I couldn't see where I was going. Fortunately, he really wasn't going much, wasn't going anywhere at that point. Yeah, so I put him on the outside, and I pulled the last one down, and I came back. I don't know how they rode years ago
Right, with
without
no
goggles.
goggles.
They didn't have goggles until the mid-40s.
And they had rocks in the track.
Yeah. A guy named Goggles McCoy was the first guy ever to wear goggles, and he was considered a wuss.
And in case you're wondering, it doesn't do any good to do that.
No,
It just
if
makes
you
it worse.
if you smear it, it makes it
We've
worse.
all tried it. So yeah, I think everybody's been down to no goggles at some point, and then
I think we didn't explain them too. You put them all on at once, so you pull them down, so you don't leave some of them up, or you don't pull them off over your head. Otherwise,
Yeah,
you'd be
they
hitting the
keep
guys
'em.
behind you. And plus, they're expensive, so you don't want to be throwing them away.
which
so
is why Kent uses 5 instead of
Yeah.
10.
you put all 6 on at once, and then you pull them down around your neck to have
I love it
elastic.
when the kids come to me and say, "Hey, can I get some goggles?" I say, "Sure, just follow me in the jocks room."
Give them an old pair.
I got some
give 'em some
scratch
old
ones you can
goggles.
have. You're not
Yeah.
having these
Yeah.
brand new ones.
What do you do though, Donna? You mentioned, I mean, with the rain and everything. What do you do? Like I've seen you use the cling film over
Yeah.
the front of the goggles.
That's just to go to the starting gate. So you'll see a lot of times the jockeys in the warm up and the post parade, as they're headed to the starting gate. That's when they take all the goggles and pull them down. The cling wrap or the saran wrap, whatever you want to call it, is on there, and sometimes you'll leave it on. Most of the time you won't. It depends on how much it's raining. It depends on how sloppy the racetrack is. But the main reason why it's there is because that cling wrap is over all 6 pair of goggles. And if you don't have it, then while you're out there in the warm-up, all the water's getting into all your goggles, and the likelihood of them fogging up is a lot higher, and also just not being able to see out of them as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
usually that saran wrap comes off when you go into the starting gate and just tuck it into your jock silks or into your silks or into your
And they
pants.
fog up.
Yeah, the goggle that's touching your face, because your body is warmer than the air, it fogs up pretty quickly. So when you get to the starting gate and you pull all 5 pairs down, the pair that's touching your face will start to fog up a little bit. So what you have to do is you got to pull them all out away from your face and let the air get through there to defog it. And so you're sitting in the gate. Let's say it's the Derby and there's 19 horses. You're sitting in the gate and you're holding them out like this, and you're looking back to see when that last horse is coming up. And when that last horse goes in, you go ahead and put them back on your face, and you're ready to go.
And you hope they don't fog up.
Yeah.
I mean, how is the vision when you have all of them on? If you have 6 pairs of goggles on, you're looking through 6 pairs sheets of plastic. Like how good is your vision?
Well, the goggles, on the side of the goggles, they have little brass air vents, and they act like a blinker. When you've got 5 pairs of goggles on, those 5 vents go out a good ways from your eye, a good ways in front of your face. So they act like it hinders your peripheral vision. But you get that back every time you pull one down, it becomes better.
That's why the first turn is dicey.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got Kent on your left-hand side.
No. That's why they make them now without the chrome. They make them clear now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've updated.
That was
they've
back in our
updated.
day.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
these kids now, they've
Yeah.
got better
They're
equipment.
still kids.
Reconfigure.
One of the topics that's, I guess, a little bit of a, heated topic at the moment are the whips, the crops, the persuaders, whatever you want to call them. The two of you are currently riding right now. How important is it for you to carry a whip during a race?
Me first?
Yes.
I think it's a crucial tool that we have to have as riders. It's something that they're big, strong, powerful animals, and although they are bred to run, like we all say, that doesn't mean they all want to run first. They tend to be herd animals as well. So I mean, you certainly need it, but we have strict rules, and our riding crops are much better than they ever were back in the days. They're full of cushion. Horses are examined before each and every race and after each and every race. And here in California, man, I was talking to one of the vets the other day that examined them. I think we've had one out of the last 4 years that has even had a little mark on it. So there's certainly a whole lot better. Now, again, it is a tool, and it can be overused. That's where the stewards come in play. I think they should come in, and if anyone's abusing or overusing it, then they should be fined and fined heavily for it. I think we got into a place too as well that once you're out of contention, I don't think it should be used anymore. But I do not think it should be taken away by no means. I mean, it's a very crucial tool, in my opinion. Some people have others, but and it's an art to it. I mean, there's a way of holding a horse's head together and using a riding crop in the right way. And some of people were brilliant at it. Some aren't so good at it. Chris happened to be one of the greatest riders at doing that. He could do it in rhythm and about as pretty and as smooth as you could possibly do it, and it was brilliant. Some people will overuse it, and they'll use it when you're running last, or even if you're 10 in front, they might overuse it. But again, those are situations that the stewards would step in and certainly reprimand them and do it heavenly.
Not just at the finish line, but also at the start of the race. Kent, you're in the gate and you know that maybe a horse has a tendency to break out, break in. How important is the stick at the beginning of the race for you?
Well, there are
Depends.
plenty horses that need encouragement, and without the encouragement, they won't entertain. They won't persevere. So, you know, you got your bad boys and your good girls, and to reiterate on Mike, I mean, I just think that it's just one of those things that my brother always tells me my hands, if they got rid of it, you know, I'd be reinvigorated. I mean, it'd be my whole new world because I have great hands with a horse. But I honestly believe that there are those that, without direction, they won't even take a step. And does that make it right? I don't know. I just love the horses so much. I would take whatever direction they want, but they're kids.
It's also, you know, what's more safe too. I don't know if it's very safe to come down the lane. If say they did take them, and you just throw a horse's head away, and you start doing this. You know, when a horse gets tired, and that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna have to shoe them. I mean, so it's gonna be a whole different style, and I ain't too sure I want to be a part of that style. As long as it's used correctly and right, and again, the riding crops we have to educate the public that they're brilliant,
Amen.
man.
Thank you.
And they're cushion. They're like the Nerf.
Nerf ball.
Yeah, like the
don't-
pool
They
noodles.
just make
They're like
noise.
a pool noodle.
So they're not nothing like they used to be now. Back in the day, now they could be brutal. You know, they could have been, and it's taken this long to finally get it right. But again, it's a tool that I believe anyway that's needed, but with a lot of good rules and with good stewards up there to watch. And if anyone in any way, at any time, is misusing it, they should be reprimanded. They should be fined
And
heavily.
they are.
I'd like to add one thing to that. The Kentucky Derby this year is a perfect example. If you go back and watch the replay of that, the very first thing that Luis Saez did when his horse ducked out was slapped him on the shoulder with that riding crop. It's there to remind a horse of expected behavior and also at times to provide direction. And one of the things that Mikey pointed out that I think is very valid is that horses are herd animals. They would just as soon race in the middle of the pack, be right in the middle of that herd. And so they have to be encouraged at times to take the lead. They don't all want to take the lead. And then to add to that point, we change the finish line on them all the time. Now, not by your estimate, because you watch a race and you see where the finish line is. But these horses race on different tracks. So they might race at Santa Anita, at Los Alamitos, at Churchill Downs, different distances, 3/4 of a mile, 7/8, a mile and a quarter, different surfaces.
Keeneland, you got 2 wires.
Keeneland has 2 finish lines.
A lot
And
of
so they have no idea where the finish line is without us telling them. And so I honestly believe that jockeys' roles in the final, let's say, 1/4 of a mile with the riding crop is to act like a personal fitness trainer. So even the Olympic level athletes at the highest level have personal fitness trainers who are there to like push them harder, make them dig deeper, so that they can be the best that they can be. And I think that that's what jockeys do with the riding crop. They're there to say, look, I'm still trying. Hey, I'm tired too, but I'm going to fight all the way to the end. I'm going to get you to the wire, and we're going to do this together. And I also honestly believe that if we were hurting them with riding crops, they would slow down. Horses tend to slow down when they're in pain, not speed it up.
Chris, you worked with the jockey school for so many years. I mean, bringing up these new riders to the sport. How much of a preference did you put on using a stick, teaching them how to properly use a riding crop?
It was one of the last things that I taught them. I taught them how to use their hands primarily. Like Kent was saying, the hands are the most important aspect of, most important physical attribute that we have, aside from our balance and our strength. The hands are crucial to getting a horse to do what we want them to do. I did teach them how to use the crop properly. It all depends on, Mike pointed out, the proper use of the crop is crucial. It's when you hit a horse and where you hit a horse on their body. You don't want to hit them on their flank. You want to hit them up on the hip where they're supposed to be hit. And I also agree with Mike as far as the stewards go. When a horse is hopelessly beaten and a rider perseveres with the stick and continues to whack away, that rider needs to be called into the room and reprimanded and or fined. So the proper use of the crop is the most important thing, and that's what I believe.
Donna, earlier on you brought up the tight silks.
The
We now
aerodynamic.
see the aerodynamic silks. I remember, actually, in fact, my first pair of silks, my grandmother knitted for me. but we've seen, the silks, the old-fashioned traditional silks, and now these aerodynamic silks. Do you prefer one or the other? Did you prefer to ride in one or the other?
I liked my Lucky Silks. Those are the ones I liked. I like to ride for people I won races for, so I didn't care what those silks looked like. I didn't even care if they fit me as long as I won a lot of races in them. That was really all I cared about.
I think, Chris, didn't you play a big part in the aerodynamics, which I absolutely love. I'd rather wear those than the old-fashioned.
I don't know why I don't know why a lot of owners have gone back to the traditional silks. Back in 1983, a lady by the name of Rhonda Allen, Joe Allen's wife, took the silks to NYU, to their physics department, and they determined that at 3/4 of a mile, you gain 9 feet. That's the length of a horse. If I'm sitting in the starting gate and everyone else is wearing traditional silks and I'm wearing the aerodynamics, I'm a length in front before the race starts. At a mile, it was even further. It was about 15 feet at a mile. So I went crazy. The traditional silks are fastened on the front by either snaps, buttons, or Velcro. And most of them have gaps, just like a shirt, just like this shirt I'm wearing. And I would take duct tape and roll it and make a double stick and put it in between. I would fill these gaps to prevent the air from getting in there, because the traditional silks billow.
Like a parachute.
Like a parachute.
All you have to do is drive your car down the road.
Stick
and
your hand out the window.
Imagine you are in your car with speed silks, or put your hand out the window
Right,
and feel your hand almost.
right.
There you go.
And then just turn your hand. Put your hand like this, going 40 miles an hour, and you'll feel that extreme drag. Turn your hand like this, and the drag decreases immensely.
Same way.
So I would always prefer. Rhonda Allen even came out with speed pants.
I went to, but
I couldn't do that.
That showed a little too much.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I pay to see you.
That was too tight, man.
I just couldn't wear Speedos, man.
I couldn't wear the speed pants. There wasn't a lot of speed there.
I wore them expecting them to come into vogue, but they never did. So I stopped wearing them.
Hey,
Angel.
CJ, that's when I got lower.
Right.
Angel
But
used
think
to
about
wear
it.
the speed pants.
Swimmers shave their bodies because the bubbles on that the hair creates drag. And so if they go to that extreme, I went to an extreme to try to minimize the amount of drag that my colors were creating.
Makes sense. No wonder you want so many
Yeah,
races.
aerodynamics to me
now
are
we
much
know.
better.
I got funny looks from all the jocks in the room.
No, I started doing that. I saw
with
you
the
one
tape.
day. I said, Chris McCarron puts duct tape. So I just put duct tape because Chris McCarron did that. I didn't know why he was putting duct tape. I just did it because he did. I want to be just like him. So I walked around with duct tape on my silks all the time until I finally learned what it meant. And then I went around telling everybody, "Do you know I gained 8 feet?"
You have the elastic bands too, the old-fashioned, right?
People
Elastic
used to
bands,
leave their
so it
sleeves
didn't
open.
go up your sleeve.
And the
Yeah.
air gets up in your sleeves, Now that's why we use elastic bands.
Like a parachute.
But aerodynamics to me are much, much better.
And your boots. How about your boots? I mean, you went
They look
from
tight.
leather-heeled boots now to these super light.
It's Corfam.
Yeah,
It's called Corfam. It's like patent leather.
right.
They weigh about as much as a paper.
Yeah,
Because you have
they
to
weigh
weigh-
about a half a
yeah.
pound. as a pair.
Mine weighed a little more than that, but I was light. So I didn't have to wear the lightest possible boots, but they're pretty light these days, a lot of them.
I think we've gone from top to bottom with all the equipment
Yeah, pretty
for
much.
riders.
Well, there's one piece you've left out, and I got this from Julie Crone, so I might as well share it. So yes, I rode with boys' underwear, and the reason why, and I'm just going to tell all you women here, like our underwear are better now than women's underwear than when I was a jockey, but the boys'
So
underwear
boys' underwear.
stayed in place. They didn't take a ride of their own, and so I learned from Crone to ride with the boys' underwear, not because I wanted to be one of the boys, because I thought my underwear should at least stay in place while I was out there.
When we were young, me and Donna used to we were very close. We're like brother and sister, but we lived together for a little while. But I didn't know which underwear was mine and which one was hers.
Plus, we're the same size. So
I think that's a little TMI.
No, nothing like
Wait,
that.
we lived together with his first wife.
Yeah,
Okay, is that
we were
better?
just very-
We all shared a
So
house.
you had the boys' underwear and then the hose. Did you wear the hose?
Oh yeah,
as
you
well?
wear
yeah,
pantyhose.
yeah.
If we'd be wearing the pantyhose, she'd have the boys' underwear on,
And the pantyhose are for
just to keep you warm. In Europe, they wear them quite a bit.
get your boots
But I
on.
What do
still
you mean
always
Europe?
carry.
I wear them in Keeneland.
Yeah, I wear a pair of pantyhose. I carry pantyhose with me everywhere I go. They're in my bag as we speak at home.
It's the greatest way to be light and
Stay
stay
warm.
warm. I mean, women's pantyhose is what we wear in winter wear. You see those light little summer pants that we have on, but we have pantyhose underneath.
Yeah, you have to understand every little ounce counts. You know, if you wear long johns as opposed to pantyhose or leotards, that's adding weight. And if you know you're gonna wear long johns, then you're gonna have to get in the hot box and pull whatever that amount of weight is.
The difference.
So it's crucial to wear things that are as light as possible.
To wear the right hose and make sure don't get the ones that run.
Yeah, right.
And you have to get a size like C or D because the other ones are too tight around your toes.
Yeah.
So you have to get the bigger one. Yeah, we had the pantyhose thing down.